All right.
Thanks. So I'm going to open the Cotuit Fire District Prudential Committee meeting of December 19th, 2022. We'll start with a roll call. Charlie Eager.
Present.
Seth Brooks.
Seth Burdick, present.
I'm sorry, Seth. Ray
Close
Perot.
enough.
Present.
Mark Lynch.
Here.
And I'm Fran Parks. Can we do the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes.
Flag, United States of America.
Flag. Do we have a flag?
It's on my screen.
One nation, under God,
Yeah.
indivisible.
With
Right.
never,
And
Limited.
justice for all.
For all. Thank you.
There we go. Good enough.
Gotta get that down.
Okay. Did everybody have a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes, I did.
yes.
Yes. Any concerns, corrections?
Not for
No.
me.
Seth?
Not for me.
No, okay. Could I have a motion to accept the minutes of the November meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Treasurer? Ray?
Yes, this is the financial report for the 5 months ended November 30th. We're 42% through the fiscal year. And so that becomes our measurement for our budget target, 42% of revenue and 42% of expenditures. And the story is actually very good. 5-month revenue is actually 46%, while expenditures, when we take out the one-time annual type fees, is running at approximately 38% of the related budget. So revenue is running ahead and expenditures are below. Good news on both sides. And it's pretty much the same when we look on a departmental basis. Fire department salaries are at target while their expenditures are below. Water department salaries and overtime are below budget, as are their overall expenditures. On the Prudential side, salaries are low, expenditures are below budget, and the same is true for Freedom Hall. There are, of course, exceptions. The medical option stipend is over budget, and that will continue over budget for the year. And that was a budgeting error that I mentioned last month. We should be able to contain that, though, within the article. Fire department maintenance is at variance to the budget, and that's because they have found that they need a maintenance program that they fell behind on, that they have to refocus on, and that's generating more maintenance cost this year. In the water department, electricity is up. I think that's a rate issue. Chemicals are up. That's due to more treatments, according to the superintendent, and freight. There are two other minor variances: ground maintenance and licenses. These appear just to be timing issues, but I'll be following them. So again, overall, a very good picture financially at the end of November.
Ray, can I interrupt quickly? You said expenditures were at 46%. I'm sorry, revenue at 46% and expenditures at what number?
At 38% when you remove the one-time expenditures. By one-time expenditures, I mean the annual insurance premium, the annual stipend that we pay for retirement salaries, and certain other one-time, for example, the one-time payment that we make to the stabilization fee. If you
Got it.
take,
I was just looking for that 38% number, not finding it.
it's, yeah, it doesn't show on the paper. It's something that I calculate when I take out the one-time expenses out of the budget and out of the expenditure side.
Okay, got it.
As
Any other, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ray.
as I mentioned, if there were no other questions on the financial results, I'd like to turn to what I mentioned in my email, and that is looking for ways to put our surplus cash to use. On page 2, I've listed all of the appropriations that we have on the books today. And that approximates 755,000 from prior years and approximately 1.2 million from the current year. You see off to the right on that schedule what my estimate of when those funds would be needed. The maintenance on the water tank, probably not for a year. I'm confirming that with the water department. The premium on the debt payment, we probably won't use that until we have next year's debt payment. So again, a year before we use that money.
Ray, what does that mean? Premium on the debt payment?
When we entered into the new debt, where we refinanced an existing debt and paid for certain appropriations at that point, we got a debt premium. In other words, we got more money in from that debt issuance than the face of the debt instrument we issued. It was called a premium. And there are certain rules and regulations about how you can use that debt premium within the Massachusetts accounting rules. And one of them is it's only available to pay debt. So we can't use it for anything until we pay debt next year.
Okay,
We could have used it this year. We chose not to. We'll use it next year. But again, we won't be able to use that for a year.
good. Thank you. Good explanation.
The $3,600 is from basic use. That's a fee that the water department charges for the water department charges, and according to our bylaws, we must use that for capital improvements for the water department. So we will use that $3,600 on one of the water department articles. So that money will be used currently. Then we get into the school property and related space use articles. The first one, the 42,000, is a carryover from space use, and I'm asking the question. I'm unclear. I thought that the AG appeal on the use of that had been put to bed, and it was available for use, but I'm not sure I heard correctly on that. But go ahead, Fran.
I think, if memory serves, she said, when this item comes up again for us, that she will probably take another look at it.
That's
Maybe
my
Jim.
recollection as well. Basically, she said that the issue was not right.
Understood. Well, if it's not ripe, I'm guessing, and here's where, Mark, you can give us some input. I don't think we're going to be spending any money on this school project for at least the next 26 weeks. It could be 13, but I'm saying 26. And actually, there's very little difference in the rates between 13 and 26. So if we went with 13, we would still be in a good position to increase the return on our cash balances.
Okay.
Yeah.
13, easy. It's, I would say it's not gonna happen. 26, I like to be an optimist.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
If
All
that's
right.
what optimism on that project.
okay. We'll put that in the 13 category.
Yeah, well, I'll give the group an update on status later.
The 312 is a carryover from excess funds from the prior tank, and that's available only for a project equal to the project that it was originally related to. So it can only be used for the demo or the rehab of the school property. I'm thinking demo or rehab is probably a year away. It
At
could be
least.
26 weeks again. That's something that I'll take your input on. But I see that as being pretty far down the road.
I think that's correct.
The $65,000 is for the replacement ambulance. I haven't heard from the fire department. I've asked the question. I'll have to pursue it with them when they think that money will actually be expended. Dropping down to ones that we appropriated at the last meeting, the $28,000 is for the environmental study. That that is probably a 13-week or maybe even a current, Mark. I'll wait till you make your comments later and adjust accordingly.
Okay,
The 5,000 is for computer updates and a study of our computer security. That I consider that current. The laptop, the 17,000 is for file rationalization and digitation. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce that correctly today. 13 weeks may be a little bit too conservative. We might be looking at more like 8 weeks on that. And the balance of them are current. Again, the 65,000 is a truck for the water department. I've got to find out from them when they're going to do that. That's a debt issue as well. So that's really not money that we're going to worry about investing. The 16.7 is for, I think that's for the electrical work at the stations. I cut off the schedule, so I'm doing a lot of this by memory. And the 25,000 was the contribution to the library. Turning to the net.
Ray,
Any
I'm gonna test your memory even more. I know it's not relevant to the current discussion, but can you just remind us what the 4 articles that have been completed were for?
Transfer, the 435 is transferred to the general stabilization.
Got it?
The 45,960 is transferred to the water department stabilization.
Got it?
The 240 is debt payment. The 300,000 is the payment to the partial payment, part of the payment for the retirement benefits of 417,000.
Great, thank you.
So that is the money that's appropriated. Turning the page, there are additional funds. Money that's already in the stabilization. We won't talk about OPEB. That's not part of this discussion. I listed it just for your information. Stabilization started at 225. We've added 435. We're standing at 660 in that account. Right now, there are no plans to appropriate any of that money. And it's sitting at about 1.72% interest when most of the CDs are at 3%. And you might even be able to get a 2-year at 4%. So that to me is something very ripe for deployment into alternate investments. The water department stabilization to me is in the same position, but I have yet to hear from them if they have any plans. Again, we're running at about 1.5 to 2% interest. We can certainly beat that. The capital fund I've pretty much laid out in the prior page in the articles. And as you can see, using what I had determined, 320 would be in the 26 category, 350 would be in the 52. We may just shift those to the 13 and the 26 category. Special revenue is only $1,300, not part of this discussion. We'll have to figure out, I'll try to figure out another strategy with that. But then we get to our general fund. Right now, our general fund has a reconciled balance at the end of November of $1 million. There's $122,000 of free cash that we have yet to spend that we have to provide out of that money. And we transfer about $300,000 into our expenditure account every month. So we have about $600,000 sitting there that we can invest for 8 and 13 weeks, in my opinion. Those 8 and 13 weeks will get us 3% versus 0.15 that we're earning right now. How do we go about it? There's really two ways. We could open an account under Treasury Direct. I'm not in favor of that. I looked at that. I'm concerned about access to the money if I were to win the lottery and move back to Paris. We need to have dual access to that money. So the alternative would be to purchase through Cape Cod 5. Cooperative hasn't really come forward. Cape Cod 5 has an active investment branch. I've spoken with them. I've got quotes with them about the 8, 13, 26, and 26 seems to be a sweet spot. When you go out to 1 year, you're not getting any more bang for your buck in terms of interest. The thing I like about Cape Cod 5 is that it's easier to provide dual access to the funds. We will need another
Dual access.
Dual access. In other words, someone besides myself as the signer for the account. Again,
Okay.
if anything were to happen to me, the district must have access to these funds. So there needs to be another signature other than myself. And that's easier to provide in the Cape Cod 5. The fee for Cape Cod 5 is $60 per $100,000 of investment. 0.6 of a percentage point. So I would like the committee's approval, depending upon what is the best time, as indicated by Mark, what you're going to say, what I hear from the fire department and the water department, to deploy these funds through Cape Cod 5 into short-term CDs to start employing some of our surplus cash.
Ray, where's the money now?
Money is sitting, stabilization is in Cape Cod 5. The water department stabilization is at the coop. The capital fund, special revenue and general funds are at the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod. OPED is with US Bank.
Any reason why we have them in 4 different spots?
Well, US Bank is one that runs our OPED investments. They're one of the approved, 2 or 3 approved places where we can put that money according to the state. So that's kind of dictated by the state.
Okay.
Stabilization at Cape Cod 5. My experience is that I generally try to use a couple of banks. I inherited most of these relationships and didn't see any need or reason to change. In the day, Cape Cod 5 used to provide a lot of debt services in terms of placement of debt. They no longer are in that business. So some of that is just a carryover from when they did that service. But I've left it there because they provide good service and good rates.
Okay.
Sometimes better than the coop.
Yeah.
And right now they're, I would say, the better choice for placing CDs.
I have a
And
question
these
about-
are,
Oh, sorry, you first.
no, go ahead.
I was just curious about what are the legal limitations of how we can invest our money?
The state has, these are all US treasuries, which is approved, but the
Mhm.
state has a list of approved investments.
So
I
these
don't
are
have that
so
in hand.
T-bills are what you're talking about rather than straight up certificate of deposits from financial institutions or whatever. These would all be
Yes,
short-term
these
treasury
would be
bills.
T-bills, right? I'm not going to what they call banker broker CDs.
Right.
I can get a
Okay.
higher rate. They quoted me something like 4.5% out of some Nevada bank, and I just don't think that's appropriate for us.
Yeah.
No. Well, the T-bills are good now. I mean, now's the time.
Yes,
The auctions, I watch them because I like T-bills, and they're paying, pretty significant returns for what they are.
yes,
$1.10, $1.20 per 100 for 13 and 26 weeks.
yes, yes. And we're sitting
So
at.
we couldn't go,
I'm
and yeah,
sorry.
we're just not making any money. No, I was just saying, so we can't, like, for instance, you just can't go out and buy equities or whatever with
No,
the fire
I
district's
think there
money.
are
You
a
can
couple
only,
of. I think there are a couple of approved equities, but that's not something I would recommend doing.
right.
Okay, so
Actually-
these are United States treasuries you'd be looking at.
All treasury instruments, yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a comment about Massachusetts, the list. Actually, the list also includes 15% can use the prudent man rule, which is using something off the list, but something that a prudent man would invest in. I know this because we spent a long time on the Town of Barnstable Trust Fund Advisory Committee looking into investing the Kirkman monies and all the rest of the trusts that the town has. And that's how one of the lawyers on the committee ferreted out the prudent man rule. Just an
It's
aside.
interesting.
Yeah.
Mm.
But
Well,
I think,
especially if we're looking at 13 or 26 weeks here,
Yeah.
T-bills are the kind of the gold standard conservative way to go, I think. And if we're going to be able to get a little more interest from it, great.
It sounds good to me.
so you don't want to do certificates of deposit?
I'm sorry, Fran.
I thought you recommended certificates of deposit.
Well, these are CD. These T-bills or CDs, whichever.
Okay. I have no experience in those, either one. So,
Who would you Who would you recommend as the second signature for this? One of the Prudential
Or the assistant treasurer,
or the assistant treasurer?
if she's willing. Lisa?
I
No,
think you're muted.
I
okay,
had to stop the share in order to get to my mutation. Yeah, if we do, I mean, sure, I'm willing. I'm also wondering if we did a Prudential committee member. And when that Prudential committee member, if that person steps off, we would have to change that whole signature, right?
right.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep, if I retire, you have to change the whole thing.
Right.
Yep.
It's the same with all our banks.
yeah.
As long as it's clear what happens.
The only thing is, I mean, the only cost to whoever is you have to give up personal information as part of the new banking regulations of know your customer. So they'll ask for social security numbers. I don't think anything beyond that. I'm hoping I don't have to give my family history. That'd be kind of boring. So Lisa, are you willing?
Sure.
Okay, fine. Then it'll be you and I will be the signatures. I will, I'm dealing with a gentleman that I know at Cape Cod 5. It's John Davidson. There's a firewall between the commercial bank and the investment side. So while they know us from the commercial side, they will have to, we'll open up a new account on the investment side, and we'll be filling out some papers. I'll meet with John and get all the papers that we need. And I would, my target is to get this done by the first week in the new year.
And just to be clear, when we're saying dual signatures, this means that either you or Lisa can procure the funds. It's not dual, like you're both needed.
I don't know if I can make it that way. If I can, yeah,
I wasn't recommending it one way or another. I'm
yeah.
just,
I think I'd leave it individual.
Yeah,
okay.
Ray, when you set that paperwork up, we have a number of Cape Cod accounts that are still, the mailing address is still the fire station.
Two sides of the same company. Investment can't talk to commercial. Commercial can't talk to investment. But I take your point. I'll follow up with commercial.
For all of those, let's make sure we change the address to our post office box.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that I get the paperwork, which has been a problem.
Okay,
Thanks.
noted.
so Ray, would you like a motion to authorize you to,
I don't know if we need a motion, but if you
Okay.
want that, that's fine.
no, that's fine,
It's one of the things I like to get your concurrence on before I start launching myself.
And just so we have a record for it, am I correct in saying that Fran, Seth, and Mark all concur with this plan of action? Mark does.
yes.
Seth
Brenda.
does.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Any other questions on anything I've had presented?
no,
Okay, thanks,
No.
Fran.
I just have, after you talk to the water department about their stabilization fund and their plans, will you let us know next month?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Freedom Hall, continues to be busy. The craft show went very well. A family was able to avail themselves of Freedom Hall for their Thanksgiving dinner since more guests came than were required.
Always.
They'll be using the hall for the same purpose on Christmas Day. And I must say
Absolutely.
they left it neat and tidy. And I'm already taking, reservations for next year. So Mark, do you want to give us an update on the Cotuit School?
Sure. Jim Danhauser continues to appropriately pester them for updates. And we got one very recently. Supposedly last week or earlier this week, they pumped the oil tank, which is a development. We had earlier discussed doing borings to try to determine, if there had been any leakage, although given the age and construction of the tank, we thought that was unlikely. They came back and said, upon consultation with the people who would do that, it's not recommended in this situation, in that you can drill a boring and have it come up clean, and 2 feet away there could be an issue. So you just have to do lots and lots of borings, and their recommendation was, if this thing is going to come out soon anyway, it should just come out. So that is what they're planning on doing. They think that they have the money for this, and can do it on a relatively expedited basis. This, of course, means, now that it's pumped and the tank is removed, there is no heating in the building. But that was, I believe, we'd shut it down in any event. Now, so that is all great and encouraging news. On the other hand, they needed to go before the planning board for an approval. Don't ask me what this particular one was for, but it was
NOI, a notice not required.
Notice not required. Thank you. And they were looking for the end of November for that. No comment on that at all in the email that came through. So my guess is that it did not happen. So on the one hand, there is some activity occurring. On the other hand, some of the things that need to have happened that they promised us would be happening by certain dates are not happening yet. So I think after the holiday, we press for more details, i.e., when are you going before the planning board for the NNR? From our perspective, the CR restrictions, the fire department has made it clear that they would like to have a new fire building and that they would like to have it there. I just want to make sure that in the event that were to occur, that we have the right to connect to their road, which leads out to Main Street. And that we may need to get some kind of language in there about who's responsible for maintaining that road if we're driving fire trucks over it, a lot. But other than that, I think the CR is in good shape. So that's where we stand.
So has the CR been accepted by the town?
No, it is still in it has not been finalized. And you may recall this conversation that it ultimately needs to be approved by the state, which we basically thought that the state is like a year out for approval of CRs. So our thought was that between us and the town, we would go ahead with it with a good deal of confidence that the state would ultimately approve it based on past history of similar kind of CRs.
Okay. Amazing.
I know.
Well, that's that, I guess. ponderously slow.
Is
and
stuff is
slower
happening.
still, but
It's the good news.
yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
moving in the right direction.
it's moving in the right direction. But you know, the NNR seems like that should be an easy one.
Yeah, I haven't seen that on any of the planning board agendas, so
Okay.
I don't think that's.
So then the approval of the conservation restriction, that could take a year once it's accepted by the town and finalized and sent out?
Yeah, it ultimately needs to be approved by the state. And this was a couple of months ago, but the person who at the state who approves these things had left the job and it hadn't been filled, so they were backing up.
Yeah,
No one was
I know,
out.
and that seems to be the way of it with them. I've been waiting 11 weeks for the Alcoholic Beverage Commission or whatever to put a stamp on something. So, but I wonder, like, will that be, can we, so at that, we have to wait until that point when, if, like, say, I don't imagine that the town is going to speed up any day soon, but if that the transfer will be contingent on that being approved by the state, meaning that conservation restriction. So at whatever date we end up having it submitted to them for their consideration, then will be a year from, or however long, not saying it's a year, but it'll be contingent on that.
We actually, I believe the last discussions we had was that the transfer would not be contingent.
On it, yeah.
But
Right,
that
so it would proceed,
it would proceed.
whatever the outcome of that would be.
If the state for some bizarre reason were to come back and say, no, there's a problem with this.
Yeah, not that they would, of course.
We would have to renegotiate it, I suppose. But the thought was that we would not wait a year.
Right, to
get-
have it be approved. Dealing with the state is so frustrating, just generally.
I strongly
Yes.
suspect Mark Robinson knows more about conservation restrictions than whoever there.
Right, than anybody in the neighborhood.
Yeah, which may be a problem. I hate to hear that there's a new person coming in. You definitely don't want to be for CR on their desk.
Yeah.
They'll have a million questions.
Well, I guess that's that then.
So, is there any public comment?
No, I don't see any.
Okay. So I want to wish everyone a happy Hanukkah, if it applies, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And pray the snow doesn't come.
Same to you. Except up in the mountains.
Oh, well, yes, that's where the snow belongs.
Yes.
North.
All right.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Holidays,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas to you all.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Oh, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, see you all soon. Have a Merry Christmas if I don't see you.
Okay.